5 hot takes for the 2023 season. Let's get into it. The Denver Nuggets, if they are healthy this year, which that is a big caveat, are going to be the number 1 seed in the West and win over 60 games, though they are not going to be considered championship favorites in spite of this. So I do want to make that distinction clear from the get-go, just because I do believe the Nuggets, if they're healthy, will be the 1 seed. Being the 1 seed does not inherently mean that you're a championship favorite by any means. I still think teams like the Warriors especially would be viewed as a favorite more so in the Western Conference rather than the Nuggets, more so because of experience and the fact that they just won it last year. But that said, Denver's offense, to me, for real, still we haven't seen the full potential it has. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. as complementary pieces to Nikola Jokic and his offensive game and the system that the Nuggets run around his playmaking, it is going to be something special. I think there's not really a better fit in the league, at least on one side of the floor, than Otto Porter Jr. and Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray and Jokic is not that far from it. Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. is not that far from it. Everything about their offense is seamless. Guys know their role, they fit into their role, they play off of each other, they complement each other. It's just a perfectly constructed roster for the offensive end of the floor. Defense can be concerning, but they end up usually outperforming expectations on that side of the floor when everybody's healthy anyways. And I just think that this is a team that is poised to win a lot of games in the regular season. Ironically, would probably be the best season of Jokic's career, but I seriously doubt he's going to get an MVP out of the equation because there's just no way they're going to give someone 3 MVPs in a row anymore. I think that's a thing of the past. Before I continue on with this video, if you end up enjoying this video, please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this. It only makes sense that if you enjoy this content that you would want to see more and subscribe, and of course drop a like to make the video do well in the YouTube algorithm. A little bit of personal and kind of gross detail. I threw up this morning and I feel terrible, so give me your sympathy likes for pushing through to make content, even though it's easier than 90% of other people's jobs, but whatever, I'm lazy and I feel bad, so give me the sympathy like. Anyways, with that said, let's get into hot take number 4. A kind of lazy one because it's the same take but for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think there is a really high likelihood that the Cavaliers this year are the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I think similar to the Nuggets, they really have the perfect roster to be a top seed and to win just a lot of regular season games, especially if the chemistry is right. And I go back and forth as to whether or not I believe the Cavaliers are a contender. I believe that's something that I discussed in the Donovan Mitchell trade reaction video. Regardless of where they land on that line, I do believe they can be a high regular season team. And again, similar with the Nuggets, I think they'll be the 1 seed, again, health permitting, but not the favorite in the East. I think even more so not the case in the East, because the East honestly looks more stacked and at least deeper than the Western Conference this year. So don't think the Cavaliers will be the team representing the Eastern Conference in this year's finals, but I do think they're going to be a lot of the talk of the town, and I do think they're going to finish at the very top. Hot take number 3. Christian Wood will be a borderline to maybe even genuine all-star. Now, the irony of this is that after writing this in my Word document to give you this take, since then there has been some drama surrounding Christian Wood in Dallas. It was reported that he was going to be coming off of the bench for the Mavericks, and then he tweeted LOL. Now, some people contend that he was tweeting LOL at the reaction, but it felt like he was subtweeting the coaching decision. Whatever that drama may be, I think some people are blowing it out of proportion, like it means Christian Wood's not going to be on the Mavericks 2 weeks into the season. I think Christian Wood's going to start off as a 6th man, and he's going to prove that he's absolutely starter quality. I don't think he has consistently proven that, but I know he has the offensive capabilities to be a 23-point-per-game guy alongside Luka Doncic. Not to mention decent rebounder, and put in the right situation, not a defensive liability, but if not put in the right situation, definitely a defensive liability. So you have to be careful with that. But what Christian Wood brings to the table as a pick and roll man, especially paired next to Luka Doncic, that is such a deadly combination that it's going to be hard not to play Christian at least 30 minutes per game. And I genuinely think that Christian is already someone who can play at a borderline all-star level just with a pretty good playmaker out there. and he's paired with a generational one who is also lacking in offensive weapons. It would be one thing if Christian was like the fourth most talented offensive player on the Dallas Mavericks, but frankly, when it comes to being able to put points on the board, especially since Jalen Brunson is no longer in Dallas, Christian Wood is easily the second best offensive option on that team. And you know damn well going into it, so long as there's not any drama that blows that thing up, the second option, the second best scorer, is going to get minutes on your team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And presuming that he eventually breaks from that six-man mold, which I don't think would take long, I think he could play at an all-star level. Now, if he does end up holding that six-man position for the entire year, in that case, other hot take, Christian Wood's going to win Sixth Man of the Year. I am a huge believer in him, and I'm really hoping that the subtweet that he put out was towards people's reactions and takes and not the coaching decision, because frankly, as someone who is a huge Christian Wood fan, I literally have a Christian Wood Rockets jersey, which in hindsight, terrible purchase, but I do have it. It would be very disappointing if that was his mentality to being benched. I think he hasn't proven it enough to have the what's the word I'm looking for? The entitlement to believe that he's just owed that spot. Like, I think he has to earn it, and I'm hoping that that's how he feels about the situation and not that it's just a slight to him, because it's like, dude, you gotta prove it. That's a fair expectation. That said, I don't think he's going to be spending the full season as a sixth man. I've talked too much about this take. Let's move on. Hot take number 2. The Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks are going to rematch in the finals. I realize I used the Warriors as the example for the team to make it out of the Western Conference, but I do think the Suns have a real shot of making it again in the finals, and no one's going to give them that credit because of how embarrassingly they lost last year. I think that was an instance where they just kind of fell asleep at the wheel at the worst possible time, and not necessarily an indication of how good they are as a team. Now, you could argue a true like championship contender team is not going to fall asleep at the wheel in that situation, and that's a fair point. Definitely see where you'd be coming from with that one. But I just think this roster is really talented. I like the direction of starting Cam Johnson, even if it means losing Jay Crowder because he's being a little bitch about it. But Cam Johnson, when he starts, averages 16 points on like immaculate splits. I don't know that he started that many games in his career, but I do think their offense is going to be better. Looks like they're going to go to Cam more. Looks like they're going to go DeAndre Ayton more. Seems like they're going to take more pressure off of Chris Paul, which means Chris Paul is just going to be all of the more ready when the playoffs come around. I realize there's a lot of things for the Suns to recover from and bounce back from last year, but I think they have a real shot at doing it. And as for the Milwaukee Bucks side of this equation, that's obviously the much less hot aspect of this take. I don't think there's many people who would think it's a ridiculous take to say that the Bucks are going to be making it to the finals. But last year, I don't have to give you the whole shtick, like Chris Middleton plays in that series, they probably do make the finals. But either way, I mean, yeah, I think the Bucks are just the best team in the Eastern Conference when they're fully healthy, and I don't think that was inaccurate last year. They just weren't fully healthy. So as I say with every take in this video and just in general, because it's the most important thing that can just ruin any prediction, health being permitted, I think the Bucks make it back to the finals for sure. Like, I'm much more confident in that side of the take. And then the Suns making the finals, I do think that's a pretty reasonable idea. I would probably like go 50-50 between them and the Warriors, but hey, it's a hot take for a reason. I try to do hot takes 2 times a week over on my second channel, although that can be not as consistent as I'd like it to be, but go over there to see more hot take opinions from me as I react to your hot takes. And this last hot take is one that I have already talked about, but well, a hot take is a hot take, even if I have said it before. Jason Tatum is going to win MVP this year. Now, I won't harp on this too long because I already made this point in my 2023 MVP prediction video, but if Jason Tatum has the production that he did in the second half of last season, and the Celtics have the success and the win percentage they did in the second half of the season, but they do that for a full year, that is a lot of fucking wins. It's a really impressive stat line from Jason Tatum as clearly the best player on what would be one of the best teams in basketball. Like, it feels like the NBA is currently in a transition period from the last generation of older star players like the LeBron James, the Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, guys who are getting up there in age a little bit but are still very clearly some of the top players in the league. And there's these other younger guys like Giannis, Nikola Jokic is even more towards in this tier. And then even going younger, like Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum, it almost feels like Jason Tatum winning this MVP would also be like kind of the signal of the younger guys starting to really establish themselves and taking their place towards the top as the older players start to decline, just as they always naturally do. So I almost feel like this MVP would be an indicator of the transition the league is currently in starting to actually happen, but not my main takeaway here. I just think that Jason Tatum is in the right position to win the award. I think the Celtics are in the right position, although, again, I wrote this shit before the Udoka firing happened. I do think the Celtics can still be quite good without Udoka's coaching. You gotta hope that this new guy is competent, which you'll just have to wait and see. But even if it's literally like, as the assistant, he's just doing the same shit that Udoka was doing, should still work out to some degree. Obviously, that's different, like just coming to making adjustments in the moment. Like, you can't just copy the previous coach's playbook and expect to be as good of a coach. But I digress. I think the Celtics can still be fine without Udoka. Maybe that's a topic for a video, but I think the roster improved. I think Udoka is a big hit, but I still think they can be a 60-win team. Still think Jason Tatum can average like 27, 7, and 6 on good efficiency, be one of the best defensive wings in basketball as he continues to be incredibly underrated as a defensive player. And yeah, make an MVP case. But those are my 5 hot takes for the 2023 season. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.